Howdy, and welcome back. I'm Steven, and this is FWP Reviews. Today we're talking about The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Or was it Falcon and Winter Soldier? Falcon and the Winter Soldier? The Falcon and Winter Soldier. What in the name of Fast and Furious bullshit naming is this? The Falcon and the Winter Soldier centers around, you guessed it, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We pick up a few months after the events of Endgames, and the GRC has been formed. And the GRC, like most government initiatives, is royally screwing everything up. A new, shadier Captain America, a strikingly familiar group fighting for millions around the globe, and a whole lot of action make for one incredible show. With that, here's my spoiler review for The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. To start, I would like to compare this to the only thing like it in the world, WandaVision. These two shows make some of the exact same mistakes, and they also nail some of the exact same things as well. They both start slow and set up heavy, which can cause a lot of boredom. The upper hand in the first few episodes goes to WandaVision because of the fun and original idea of using these sitcoms throughout the decades. By the end, though, they're both familiar and extremely well-crafted MCU projects. Despite this, they couldn't be more different. One is all about magic and the multiverse. The other is all about real-world issues. It's interesting that both of these are kind of a respective prologue to each side of what Phase 4 is going to be, obviously the multiverse and magic side as well as the more grounded and realistic side. Seeing how they're kind of a prologue is extremely interesting, as well as giving some much needed solo time to side characters in the past that are now some of our main characters because, well, you know what happened to some of our main characters. They either died or ended up on the moon? That got mentioned a lot, didn't it? Either way, these shows have me hyped for the cosmic multiverse side of this Phase 4, as well as the grounded Dark Avengers side, potentially. The future setup finds one common ground in the setup for Young Avengers, and boy, oh boy, am I getting extremely excited for Young Avengers after these shows. That's enough comparison. It's time to judge the show on its own merit, and thankfully there's a lot of merit to go around. Anthony Mackie is really the star of this show. We see Sebastian Stan returning as Bucky, and he takes more of a backseat in this movie like he usually does. Fortunately, we do get to see some intriguing and really effective character moments for Bucky. We see exactly what needs to happen to this character happen in this show. It gives him a ground for moving forward, and we see a lot of his time in Wakanda and how that affects who he is now. Speaking of Wakanda, did not see that coming. That's crazy. It's just continually impressive how deep and complex this world is and how the Wakandans can literally just show up at any time. We finally see Sebastian Stan's Winter Soldier arc as he kind of makes peace with what has happened, and he realizes that it is done and he has to make amends even though it wasn't really him, and seeing that arc effectively wrap up in this show really gives him great ground for moving forward in the future. Sebastian Stan's performance is great, and finally seeing him at peace somewhat in the end, chef's kiss. However, Anthony Mackie steals the show in almost every other regard. Fortunately, it's not a competition, so maybe I should stop trying to make it into one. And I'm really glad that we could see both of these characters in their own show and get the dedicated character time that they deserve. Anthony Mackie's performance is breathtaking. His shining moment, of course, comes in that speech he gives in the finale. It gave me a profuse amount of chills, and it showed me just how perfect he and his character are for this role of Captain America as we move forward. We'll touch on that in a second. It is made clear through the show how his life as a black man has shaped how he views situations in a heartbreakingly realistic way. This is portrayed with grace and done extremely well. It goes deeper than the simple solution of, oh, black man be Captain America, white people hate him, which is likely true, but there's so much more to that, and I'm glad that they got into that thematic element in a way. The way we see the Shield and the legacy of the Shield kind of be at the beating heart of the show is extremely important in this show that's about legacy. In the end, in a sort of touching full circle kind of way, we see that Steve's legacy is not the Shield, it's really Sam and Bucky. Now we get to see what their legacy will be. Possibly that goddamn amazing suit. I mean, look at it. It's beautiful. Although I do imagine their legacy will go deeper than that, and I am excited to see that. I am even more excited to see that as we get to see it play out in Captain America 4, where Anthony Mackie will inevitably wear that beautiful fucking suit. Captain America 4, don't gloss right over that. Did not see that coming either. Marvel literally never misses. Okay, they do miss sometimes. Iron Man 2, The Incredible Hulk, Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay, they miss a lot, but lately they really haven't been missing that much. Knock on wood, please, everybody. Thank you. On the note of the Shield and its legacy, that brings us to John Walker. John Walker, played by Wyatt Russell, was a bit of a controversial figure in this show. Just a bit, though. I, for one, have loved this character since the beginning, and I am extremely impressed with Wyatt Russell's performance. His performance and his character is a part of what begins to showcase how complex morality is and the themes that touch on that in the show. We'll get onto that later, though. We see Wyatt Russell play a slightly disturbed and egotistical veteran. He's the perfect soldier, not the perfect man. It perfectly and extremely effectively reverses what we see in the first Avenger. The way Lamar acts as his ultimate foil was also extremely well done. It's smart that he's not outright evil, much like most of the other stuff in the show is played really smartly. Seeing him deal with the fallout of his moral fallout, we see some intriguing setup for the future as well as some effective character work done in this show. The idea of the Thunderbolts or the Dark Avengers being so close is something I had never imagined we would have after this show. And after seeing that incredible US agent costume, I'm sure they can pull anything off. But was that ever really in doubt? To harken back to them playing their cards really smartly in this show by not making John Walker outright evil, we see these cards played really effectively with the return of Zemo. While Zemo and his extremely comic accurate and very entertaining purple mask were extremely overhyped in the marketing, I loved what they did with his character in the show. The facade of his newly brought on docility was extremely interesting, and seeing it the second time through, even more so. I thought they were going to play it too silly, and I loved the dancing Zemo as much as the next guy, but I was worried about where it was going. But in episode 4, when we see him flick the switch, shoot Carly, and go straight for the vials, we see that this is a man still dedicated to his mission, and he's still extremely methodical in everything he does. We see this methodical nature followed up with in the El Chapo incident. The stare down he has with Bucky at the Sokovia Monument was an incredible way to end his arc. For now. To bring it back to what I've been mentioning throughout, the way morality in this show is portrayed is extremely effective and poignant. Zemo and John Walker are both the largest cases of this. Another easy example of this is the Flag Smashers. The Flag Smashers were a bit underwhelming in parts, but it was incredible to see how real life can very easily be reflected onto the events of a world where we've got superhumans and giant gods with stones on their hands and where half the universe turned to dust. And seeing this manifested in Carly and the Flag Smashers was extremely well done. Again, they weren't the strongest part of the show, but seeing how that played into the portrayal of how Sam can view situations was really interesting and well done. The way they kind of fit into the grounded MCU, as grounded as it can be, was really intriguing. As the final way we see morality being dealt with in this show is seeing that Sharon Carter is in fact the power broker and now a villain. I didn't see it coming the first time through, but going through the second time, it was almost too obvious. Seeing someone that nobody questioned whether or not they were on the right side end up being an international art theft and arms dealer was a really effective way to portray that it's not always what it seems and people have their own motives no matter what. Now, I have heard whisperings she might be a Skrull. While I am extremely excited for Secret Invasion starring none other than Olivia Colman and Emilia Clarke, I think it would kind of do the reveal in this show a little bit dirty. We'll see. Bringing it back to the optics and showcasing morality in the show, we see how moral expectations are entrapping. We see an evil Captain America and an evil Agent Carter, and somehow every character in the show operates in a gray area. John Walker and the Flag Smashers alike are fighting for what they think is right and could very easily be argued to be right, but they're both doing it in the wrong way. The show does a really good job of showing you the tracks of their motives and what is motivating them exactly to act the way they are so that it can showcase these complex morality themes. The show does something really effective when we start to see the character reach their breaking point. We see how these motives become confused and muddled and their decisions start to make less sense. Case in point, when John Walker killed one of the Flag Smashers after Lamar was murdered. There are a lot of complaints about the wokeness of this show, and to put it plainly, there is never a world in which Captain America isn't a political figure. He is written as a political figure. The only logical way to follow that up and modernize it, as we've seen in the comics, is for Sam to take up the mantle. It is the ultimate way to bring in talking points about social and systemic issues into popular media. The show touches on it heavily, but it stays nuanced in how it's delivered. I was continually impressed episode after episode because of that. We see a lot of that in the quieter moments where Sam and Isaiah Bradley are talking about their experiences. We see, much like the real world, how black people will do the exact same thing as a white person and end up getting the exact opposite treatment. We also see this later on when Isaiah Bradley reveals how he saves his friends, and it rings awfully similar to a certain Avenger getting hailed as a hero for doing so. The show finds a lot of its stride in thematic elements and effective storytelling. A few other things this show does incredibly well that are more superficial are the fights and the locations. Madripoor is such an interesting location, and it actually feels like it gives depth to this universe that is ever expanding. It feels less ornamental and actually does feel like a fleshed out place. The fights throughout this show are incredible. The gritty fights that are most associated with the second and third Captain America movies are ever present in this show. It takes no technical sacrifices despite it being a TV show, much like we saw in WandaVision. I'm extremely excited to see this team continue into their future in the MCU during Captain America 4. On that note, let's wrap this up. This is a show that never backs down, and it never gets lost in itself. It tackles real-world issues that we see every day in a world where super beings get into fights with each other every other Tuesday. The show has impressive storytelling, thematics, and technical elements, and it wraps up in an incredibly satisfying way. Next week, you can expect my April summary video. I saw a lot of good movies and a lot of bad movies, and I can't wait to share my thoughts. Till then, follow my Instagram at FWPReviews100 for daily written reviews about all the newest movies. With that, this is FWP Reviews signing off. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.